Well, the High Court in London has ruled that Britain's decision to continue exporting components for the F-35 fighter jet to Israel is legal. The government decided to continue selling the components to Israel. That's despite accepting they could be used in breach of international humanitarian law in Gaza. Well, let's speak to Milena Veselinovic, who's live for us in Westminster. How did they come to this conclusion? Because there's clearly a contradiction there.
Yeah, so to give you some context, last year the UK government decided to suspend some arms export licenses to Israel because it assessed that Israel was not complying with international humanitarian law when it came to the treatment of detainees, for example, also denying access to humanitarian aid. But they created a carve-out, an exemption for F-35 fighter jet parts. Now, F-35s are created in an international program. Many countries manufacture different parts. Now, for example, 15% of each F-35 jet plane is made in the UK, but the UK doesn't specifically make those parts for Israel. They go into a global pool and many countries then use those planes. So the UK government was arguing that if they were to suspend those parts from being exported, it would impact just on Israel, but also on the UK's allies in NATO and potentially even on, for example, the government was saying Ukraine's ability to defend itself from Russia's invasion, stating that it could really have a supply chain knock-on effect on the entire program. Now, Al-Haq, a group based in the occupied West Bank, challenged this in the High Court, saying that because Israel uses F-35s in the skies over Gaza, by doing this, the UK could be in breach of international law as well as the Geneva Convention. But today, on Monday, the High Court here in London sided with the government's argument, saying that they had a legal standing to continue exporting those parts. Now, what can Al-Haq do next? They could go to the Court of Appeal, but it does underlie that tension between the UK's decision or desires, they say, for national security, as they put it in this context, and of course, compliance with international humanitarian law.
Milena, speaking of courts, the UK is poised to ban the protest group Palestine Action, a move activists are criticising as extreme. What's the update on that?
Yes, we've heard quite recently that the High Court has granted Palestine Action an urgent hearing to challenge their impending prescription. That hearing will take place on Friday, and Palestine Action and their solicitor, their lawyers, have submitted witness statements from the likes of Amnesty International, who are raising concerns that there could be a misuse of anti-terror laws here in order to police dissent, essentially. Now, the UK government is hoping to prescribe Palestine Action by Friday in order to prevent any potential demonstrations that might take place on Saturday, on Sunday. And as it stands, the Minister of Interior, Yvette Cooper, still intends to lay out the draft prescription in front of Parliament today, on Monday. Now, it kickstarts a process. There are going to be votes on this. It takes several days and debates as well. But this decision, when she announced it last week, did raise quite a lot of concerns among legal experts that we spoke to, with this being the first time in the UK that a direct action group, which organises things like sit-ins or criminal damage, for example, damaging property, is put in the same basket as organisations like ISIL or Al-Qaeda, quite violent groups. So many legal experts and, of course, civil liberties groups were raising red flags about what this means, how protests will be policed and judged in the UK from now on.
OK, thank you very much for that update. Milena Veselinovic there in London.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.